And take 3. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Check Engine Podcast, the only podcast produced entirely by 3 winners of IMSA's Spirit of the Race Award from the 2015 Salen's 6 Hours of the Glen. This is episode 5, guys.
We made it. 5, guys. Oh, I want burgers.
Oh, man. It's almost like we're kind of almost seasoned vets at this point.
I hope so. I hope we're hitting our stride.
Yeah, I think after 5, we can say we're veteran podcasters now.
Yeah. I mean, we've done not our first rodeo.
No, it's our 5th rodeo.
It's our 5th rodeo at this point. We're not professionals. You know, we don't write for any websites or magazines. We're just dudes who love cars, right? That's
fans.
We're just fans. We love cars. We love racing. We want to talk about that kind of stuff, and we want all of you listeners to be a part of that discussion as well. So you can reach out. You can comment. You can like us, and you can follow us. We have our own email inbox now. New development. Inbox at checkenginepodcast.com. We'll get in touch with the podcast. But if there's a certain host that you have a particular issue with, you can just reach out by our name. So it's either Nick at checkenginepodcast.com or Tristan at checkenginepodcast.com or Andrew at checkenginepodcast.com. You can get us individually. We have our own website now.
That's the new stuff.
That's the new stuff. CheckEnginePodcast.com. You can find out about us, your hosts. You'll have links to the episodes that we're recording here. We're also going to try to get a blog going for you, hopefully once a week, once we get it up and running. We'll kind of alternate who does it, right?
Yeah, that was the plan, to kind of go between the 3 of us and just little articles, stuff that we weren't able to fit into the episode again, kind of like the spark plugs or new ideas, crazy rants, anything too crazy for the show will go at the blog.
Yeah, there you go.
Policy.
So this should probably be mostly populated by Andrew, it appears at this point.
Okay, listen.
Yep, all right. Next,
that's what it's going to
next
be.
thing, Nick?
We are also... Hey. Did you guys know we're on social media?
Oh, man, we are. We're all over.
We are so social. You can find us on Facebook. We're at Check Engine Podcast. Like us. If you don't like us, please share us anyway, because you may have a friend who will like us. You can follow us on Twitter at Check Engine Pod. There's no cast on the end of that. It's just at Check Engine Pod. Same goes for Instagram, at Check Engine Pod. Be sure to follow us on there as well. Just be a part of this discussion, folks. Just comment. If you have any ideas for episodes that we could possibly use, we have some in the hopper, but we always like to hear from you guys. Reactions to the episodes we already have out there. You can find the podcasts anywhere pods are cast, really. Google Play, Spotify, iTunes, Overcast, Pocket Casts, or our home base is anchor.fm/checkenginepodcast. To my left, I've got Andrew. Behind the controls, I've got Tristan. Guys, what is on the agenda tonight?
Yeah, I think we've got a couple things we want to cover as far as evolution of the podcast. We've got that all the way with some of the email, and we've got some kind of special events that are starting here, and we'll let Nick get to that in a little bit. But then kind of our overall topic, I think, was best described by you, Andrew. How did we discuss this earlier?
The topic for this week, we are going to talk about Bumble for car owners.
I call it Rumble.
Rumble.
Is that worth a stop and hold, Andrew? Is it too bad a joke?
I think we can let him go for now. He looks very innocent back behind there. Also, he actually controls the mute button, so we need to figure out a new way to do this.
How to mute me.
Exactly.
I can reach across the table and take his microphone.
He has all the power right now, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Nick has all the arms. So
but I do have all the arms.
He could take my microphone if he wanted to.
Boop. It's gone.
So that's what we're going to talk about. Do we want to do a quick little round robin of news if anyone's got anything fun?
Yeah, we always start off with a little bit of pace laps. Let's talk about the neat car news. Andrew, I think you had a story for us in the neat car news.
I do have a story. This last week I was passed on the road by an Audi A6. Tristan, much like your dad's green one, this one was white. That's not notable except for the fact that the car was on fire. It was literally on fire.
Oh my God.
Burning as it was going down the road. I mean, it wasn't just steam. Like, you could see the flames coming out of the bottom of the car. And so he passed me and, like, ducked down a side street. And I really want to know what happened. Hey, if you used to drive an Audi A6, get in touch with the pod.
Send us an email, inbox at checkenginepodcast.com, subject line, I used to drive a white Audi A6.
I have no idea what... I mean, I kind of wanted to follow him, but I also had somewhere I wanted to be. So, just a mystery there.
He had to have known.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it was smoke and steam coming up through the, obviously around the sides of the car, and then obviously through the hood, and there. I mean, it was full
on fire.
So do you think like that side street was home, and he just ducked like, oh man, I'm home. I can get the hose or something.
I've bundled my insurance. Now I can get my car and my home insurance involved.
Get the hose. Oh no! I hope that's not what happened.
And hopefully the guy was okay.
Okay, yeah. All joking aside, driving a flaming car is not. That's for stuntmen, not for people.
Remember, folks, if your car's on fire, get out and run away.
It's full of gasoline. At least most of them are.
Yes.
Gasoline or lithium.
Even if it isn't, right?
It's essentially a bomb
Yeah.
at that point. So get out. Get out.
I actually have more car fire news.
Oh no!
How do you have?
I have more car fire news. I was sitting in traffic the other day, and there was a volunteer firefighter who was coming up to an accident, kind of like out of my field of vision, and he pulled up right next to me in a big old GMC with tons of lights everywhere. They were on the running boards, they were on the top, on the bottom, in the windows, in the headlights, and the taillights. One of those. Mm-hmm. And the license plate
took the entire Whelen catalog and just ordered every single light. Yeah,
everything.
Just called the Whelen hotline and said yes.
Give me them all.
Absolutely. But the thing so that's a lot. Huge car, a lot of lights. The thing that most got my attention was the license plate, which was the word burnt.
Oh, no. That's his job is to make things not burnt.
Well, there's that. And then, with the Audi, it was just like a nice full circle car fire week.
Full circle car. I want to drive more places with you, man. You see some cool shit.
Only since his pod started, though. I never used to see...
No lie, Nick. Speaking of that, talking about driving places with us, previously, when you were not with us, you were in Michigan, driving home from your place in Michigan after the race at Canadian Tire.
Oh, yeah.
We saw a U-Haul truck on fire. It's him.
I think maybe I track car fires now.
There you
This
go.
might be my new thing.
Yeah. So, I think that's
like a moth to a flame,
Yeah.
like Andrew to a car fire.
Right.
Andrew
Indeed.
car fire.
Do we just coin a new phrase?
I don't think so. I don't think that's going to catch on, I got to admit.
Technically we did, but no one's going to use it.
So we still say we coined it. Still counts.
I mean, Nick, we don't have... I don't know if we have any neat car news from you, but I did hear we might have some neat cart news from you.
Yeah. So you can find, coming to a racetrack near you if you live in the Midwest, the Check Engine podcast is going racing. My dad and I got back into karting. I did it for a little bit in high school and into college, and then I realized that, hey, Roger Penske's not calling me or knocking on my door, so we should probably just shutter this for a while, go get the degree, and get adult life started, and we can always get back into it. So 10 years later, we're getting back into it, and
That's awesome.
yeah, not full schedule for this year. I'm sure I'm going to catch the bug and want to race every weekend next year now that I have it.
Yeah.
But planning on just a few to kind of get my feet wet, probably maybe 7 or 8 races. But yeah, and we're going to throw a Check Engine podcast sticker on that bad boy, and I'm going to sponsor myself, and we're going to go racing this summer. So very excited about it.
Yeah, we'll definitely have probably some live video and some photos from one of those at some point. So
Gotta make sure to
we'll
get
catch
that.
up with you.
Yeah, for sure. And not just me personally going racing. The podcast is going to be taking some field trips coming up as well. First weekend of May, the 3 of us are going to be attending the IMSA races in beautiful Lexington, Ohio at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course.
Oh, man. I'm super excited.
We've heard great things about Mid-Ohio. None of us have been there before.
It's the highly transient Mid-Ohio.
Yes.
It's on the schedule one year and gone the next, and we saw an opportunity this year and we pounced.
We snagged it, and for those of you who have listened into our racetrack episode, we're going to be keeping all that stuff in mind as to what makes for a good track experience. We're going to be looking for the good viewing vistas and the action points and the hospitality and all those type things. So look for some live updates, some live videos, some posts, pictures, all of those things from our weekend there. More to come on that. Also, at least one of us will be attending the Indianapolis 500.
Yep.
Very, very fortunate that I'll be going back, and maybe we can snag a couple of you guys to come along with me. Memorial Day weekend, best racing weekend of the year. And again, live posts, live videos and such from the greatest race on the planet.
Wow, yeah. You sound hyped up. Well, I mean, I know you've gone every year since before you were born.
Yeah. I have not gone ever because he's threatened to make me carry the cooler.
Well, that's rude.
No, it's rookies. Rookies carry the cooler.
Rookies carry.
If
Okay,
I manage to remain not the rookie, I don't have to carry the cooler.
What if he went by himself one year and then went with you a second year? Is he still a rookie?
No.
There you go.
You have to attend the race at one point to not have to carry the cooler.
All right,
There we
so
go.
this year will go.
We're going to go on our own, carry our own tiny coolers.
That's right.
And then we'll join you guys. We figured it all out.
So the thing is, though, that means you always have to get a rookie, because otherwise the cooler stays in the car.
Ooh.
Oh, jeez.
Because no one who's... Because if you're not a rookie, you're not carrying the cooler.
Oh,
so we always need to find a noob. So, anything else for pace laps, or are we going to bounce into the main story here?
Yeah, I think we're going to try to keep these quick this time around and move into the meat of it. So,
Yeah.
who wants to kick us off?
Well, I think I can.
You want to we'll just kind of talk about what this whole thing is about, right? Kind of an overarching view. We mentioned Bumble for car owners, but what are we actually digging into here?
Well, all three of us are in the exact key demo of what every single car manufacturer on the planet wants to sell. We are the people they want to sell their cars to. And we're picky. We're not easy. We like certain things in our manufacturers. We want to see certain things in our cars. But all of the major manufacturers are looking to us to buy their cars. So we have three big American manufacturers. We have FCA, we have Ford, and we have all the GM brands. All of them are kind of scrambling a little bit. They're up there on the dating app, and they're maybe looking a little desperate. Maybe they haven't found anyone to go on a little date with. So
they're going fishing, man. They're swiping right on everybody
They
right now,
absolutely
begging for
are.
buyers and hoping for a response.
And we're gonna go over what their strategy looks like, as far as what they're gonna put on that profile, other than just I swipe right to everyone.
Right.
And then we're gonna discuss whether we would swipe right ourselves and what could maybe change that.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we see a long-term relationship? Would it be just a fling?
Just a fling. Just a fling with a demon.
Yeah, actually,
Maybe.
yes.
Yeah, so 3 different U.S. car giants, 3 different strategies. Which one are we going on a date with?
Maybe first we should start with GM, because GM is almost like a bunch of little individual brands that you almost have to tackle separately, because they're each after their own thing. They each want their own unique kind of relationship, I guess.
Yeah, let's go into it.
Multiple personality dating app.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, all right, let's untangle this one.
Those are trouble.
Let's maybe start with the brand that's kind of doing the most right now, and maybe it's not in a good way. I'm talking about Cadillac.
We've been hitting Cadillac a lot in these early episodes.
There's a lot to say.
But they're doing so much stuff. I mean, we talked about the SUV. They're bringing that in. That is the seller. Small SUVs are what's hot right now. But Cadillac's also talking about keeping their fast sedans. They want to make sure they still have performance cars on the road. And they just announced a brand new engine that I think is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Tristan, you want to talk a little about the new engine, the Marquis?
Absolutely. So they have decided to design a handcrafted turbocharged V8
twin turbo
in the hot V configuration, where all the turbochargers and everything are tucked in between the banks of the V8. Now, this has unfortunately rendered a few issues, among which, and probably principal, I would say, is the spark plugs don't come out. they are permanent. Now we're not talking hard.
Like, are they marketing them as lifetime spark plugs? Like, you never have to change them?
Yes, and this is this is in opposition to things like the 4.2 liter Audi V8 in some of the S and RS cars, where it's just a little bit too big. You kind of got to tip the engine to get it out, or even some of the late 70s GM products. And GM's already kind of done this with things like the Buick Skyhawk, the Chevy Monza, the Pontiac Sunbird. They had a V8 in that one. It was a 305 that you had to remove. To remove the spark plugs, you had to disconnect the engine mounts, hook it up to an engine hoist, and lift it several inches out of the car to access some of the spark plugs on this engine. And so this is territory they've trodden before, and they said, forget that, we're not going to make them take the engine out, we're going to sell them lifetime spark plugs.
That is so much worse.
You have to realize there is no such thing as lifetime spark plugs.
There absolutely is not.
I mean, unless Mrs. Cadillac, here comes a joke, everyone. Are you ready? It's just a joke.
I'm so ready.
Nobody be offended. Maybe they're just talking about the remaining lifetime of their customers. 12.
8 years, 12 years.
Yeah.
Right in that area.
Yeah.
Or 15,000 miles, whichever
Comes
comes first.
first. Yeah.
Oh, that's so bad. But
my mom is so insulted right now. She drives a Cadillac.
I'm sorry. That's why I said it was a joke.
Here's the thing about this, though. One thing that we all know about engines, having been around cars, liking cars, unless maybe GM has some brand new technology it's never been seen before. But the one thing about spark plugs is they get foul.
Yeah.
They just do. It's the nature. They're triggering an explosion.
It's not even like they wear out. It's not like, the terminals in the spark plug necessarily wear out.
Right.
They're just in an environment with carbonizing fuel, and they get dirty, especially in
turbocharged engines,
which this is. So
Twin turbo.
I don't know that they.
You said it. I'm going to say it. Twin turbo.
I don't know that they really thought this one all the way through.
Nor do I, especially because, obviously turbo engines, they're very high compression. The explosions are intense. And if you have ethanol fuel in a turbocharged engine, the engine gets dirty much faster in the valves and at the plugs and everything else, just because when you burn ethanol in a gas engine, it doesn't combust. It doesn't do much of anything. It turns into water. It makes your plugs foul. I just don't know how this is going to work.
So that's Cadillac's approach.
Yeah.
Make a
what car is that engine going to be in?
So that's for their
I believe it's the CT6.
Yeah, the CT6.
Okay.
Yep, and I think so. And this is going against.
So don't buy that one.
Things like the M5.
Yeah, that's their flagship sedan, the biggest one.
E-Class Mercedes, things like that. And the problem is, GM, those cars produce 600 horsepower, which this one does not. And its highest trim, it'll produce 540,
550, I think is what the...
So you're short on horsepower. You've got permanent lifetime spark plugs for which a motor change will be required to change the spark plugs.
Mm-hmm.
That's Cadillac's attempt at catching new customers.
Not their only attempt, though. I'm looking at his screen, looking at Andrew's pad here, his screen, and there is a proper gorgeous car on his screen with a Cadillac badge on it.
That's true. So maybe GM's or Cadillac's looking a little rough around the edges here, but they have this beautiful Cadillac Escalia, or Escala, one of the two. That was a concept car. It's gorgeous. It's everything their current lineup is not in terms of looks, and they're actually producing it. So that's good. That's really good.
But does it target our demo?
I don't know. I don't think a lot of people our age are buying large cars, simply because they're
large premium sedans.
They're too big now. A large family sedan is what used to be. A mid-size sedan now is what used to be a large sedan when we were growing up.
You look at it as a perfect example. My mom looking for a new car. She originally bought that A4 in 1997. Bought a newer one, I think it's 2008, significantly larger, doesn't like the larger car, has to look at A3s now. She goes down a whole class because, mid-size, sedans are as big, now as full-size sedans were back when we were growing up in the 90s.
It sounds like a really finicky, weird thing to say, but they're just hard to park. Big cars now they're difficult to park.
Which is obviously going to be a joke to anybody who ever parked anything from before the 80s.
Right.
Anything in the 70s and the 60s with fins, and you can set up a whole city in the trunk. I mean, this is going to sound like we're joking here, but I mean, they are bigger cars for us.
Yeah. So. Hard to park. So that's where Caddy's at.
Yeah, I think that's a big swipe left for me. That's a big no.
Yeah, it doesn't draw me in as a person who has left school, is still early in their career, but life is moving on. I'm not looking for a giant luxury car at this point.
I'm a swipe left, with the caveat that I might want to test drive an Escalia.
They are very pretty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Certainly want to take pictures of one.
Here's a related question I just have to ask you, Nick. Could this Cadillac engine be some kind of weird prototyping they're doing for the next generation of Corvette? Could we see this head again, this block again in the Corvette? A small twin turbo V8?
They are building them in Bowling Green by hand, right next to the ZR1 engines.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm not going to rule it out. I mean, they are making a mid-engine version of a Corvette too, and
exactly.
10 years ago, you would have never in a million years thought that was ever going to happen.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the engine that they put in the mid-engine version.
Could be something crazy.
It could be something completely out of the box and crazy. So, I wouldn't put it past them. Absolutely not.
Well, let's move right into.
Do you have
Chevy?
a consensus? And it looks like three
lefts.
Swipe left.
Yeah, three no's.
Cadillac.
Three big no's.
Let's move on to Chevy.
Yeah, let's move right into Chevy. Nick, I think you're the GM pro here. So
leader of the bow tie brigade.
Chevy, we know the Corvette. Everyone loves the Corvette. It's in racing. It does well. It's it's the classic. It's the American car. Outside of that, what are they doing? What are they up to these days?
Well, they don't have a foothold on the truck market because that's still Ford, which we'll get into later. I think the two things or maybe one thing that they do really, really well is their small pickup, small SUV. You guys have had experience in my Trailblazer.
Yeah. Trailblazer, we drove, Nick and I, we drove down to Road Atlanta in an Equinox.
We did an Equinox.
Yep.
What was the other one? Oh, I did. Not only did we saw it at a show and we thought, that looks pretty cool, but the most recent trip that my dad and I did down to Florida, it was cool. It was in the mid-size car row at the rental car.
Yeah.
But it was a brand new Chevy Colorado pickup.
Ooh.
Yeah, I test drove one of those when I was looking to buy my newest car.
I do like those.
We doubled back with the rental car agent. We're like, that's in the mid-size row? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, and that's not going to cost us any extra to take? And they're like, nope. We're like, sold. And honestly, I spent a couple of nights down in Florida when we were just kind of hanging out and not, preparing for the next day, just kind of winding down for the evening. I was online looking to buy a Colorado. Like, it was really, really nice. Very easy to drive.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I loved it. It didn't ride real rough or weird. When it got on the highway, it was very, very smooth, very car-like. And I think the Trailblazer is like that too.
Yeah, and the V6 in that Colorado is wonderful. It's the same one they use in the V6 Camaro, which, if you remember back to our Dream Car episode, is my true blue American dream car choice. And I think that engine is a significant part of that. So I think they're doing some good things with that kind of thing.
Right. Besides that, they've got, the Cruze, the Impala. The Cruze seems to be a somewhat popular smaller car. You see those around.
Yeah.
What really surprised me is the success of the Cruze hatch. You see those everywhere now.
Yeah, that was a big seller. One little note, I just saw a little blurb on it in a picture. Potentially for Chevrolet, a new El Camino in 2020.
Are they bringing over the Holdens, the Maloo, and the stuff?
Please tell me they're bringing over the Maloo.
You would think.
Yeah.
But you would be wrong.
Oh my
God,
God.
no. Why?
See, I don't know why. That's the thing. You get these ideas and it's like, oh, and then you look and you're like, oh,
That's
no.
just foolishness.
It's essentially, it's small enough. It looks like the Chevy Cruze with a truck bed in the back. Like they use the Chevy Cruze front end and that platform and just cut the rear end off and made a truck bed on it.
I mean, it holds with the other versions of the El Camino. It's all just whatever car they were using at the time with a truck bed on the back.
I
So
suppose it's just very
it's not out of
disappointing.
character, but yeah, I would have liked the Maloo.
You know what? Maybe they would be worried that the Maloo would cannibalize the business from the Colorado.
Because the Maloo's a little bit bigger.
I mean, I guess if you're not looking for some of that stuff that they're pitching with like the ZR package Colorado, like the off-road stuff, you're just looking to throw crap in the back of it, then yeah, it's big enough that might be an issue.
So, yeah, Chevy. I don't know. I'm a bow tie guy, and because of now I'm racing, I'm gonna need something to tow.
Right.
And because a go-kart isn't heavy, it doesn't need a whole lot to tow. So, because I've been very happy with my Trailblazer for years and very happy with the Colorado I tried, which would also tow what I need to tow, I'm going to swipe right on Chevy.
Yeah, I've got it in my dream car list. I considered purchasing a Colorado. I decided I didn't need a truck, so I didn't go with that. But yeah, I mean, I would say it would be a swipe right. That would be very dependent on the first date. I've never owned a I've never owned a Chevy before, but I'm at least interested enough to go have dinner.
The only thing that concerns me about Chevy, I think they surprise me in a lot of ways because I generally, I'm down on Chevy just in kind of a general sense. But the one thing that concerns me is that they sold off all of their European market share.
Well, that's GM. That's not Chevy.
That's true. But
If we're going through brand by brand.
However, you have to remember, with the exception of the Colorado, which is obviously an American vehicle, all those small SUVs, all those small cars that are selling well, those are Opel designs. Those are European-generated cars. What are we going to see from Chevy in the future? How dependable are they going forward?
I mean, I think honestly the ones that we are seeing selling aren't. I think as a lot of those went to something that we'll cover later. They went to Buick. The Traverse is a U.S. design. The Colorado, the Camaro.
Which one's the Traverse? The midsize SUV?
Yeah, because then there's the Equinox is the big one.
Yeah.
Also, Equinox is the little one.
Oh, sorry, yeah. And then Traverse is the big one.
That's
the same as the GMC Terrain.
Well, Terrain would be the middle because Chevy still has a Suburban.
Right.
Which is the big SUV.
Right,
so
that's the biggest SUV.
It's Equinox, Terrain, Suburban.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so, I think those are all American designs. I think they did design the Cruise hatch with a European market in mind, but it's based on the Cruise, which is an American design.
That's true.
So I mean, I think a lot of those, although they are getting rid of those designs across GM, that's kind of why I would swipe right on Chevy, is that they've got a lot of their own designs that are doing well.
I would probably then be a very hesitant right, pending a first conversation. If they're like, trashy, then that's a big no for me.
If you got to the first date, you'd have like me saying like, hey, if I text you, like call me so I can get out. Okay,
I would have an out. I would have the out.
The out if you're going out with them. Are we gonna go through a lot of the other brands for GM, or do they matter?
The only one that matters for us, because they are going after our hearts and our minds in a very real way, is Buick. And we've talked a lot about Buick already because they're shooting their shot at us.
Yep.
And I don't know that it's going to work. I don't think it's going to work.
Again, back to what you're talking about.
Okay, Buick, I see you.
It's their Opel designs, and they're not keeping them.
Exactly.
I mean, the ones that I like, they're not keeping.
Mm-hmm. Let me tell you one thing that would get my attention from Buick. This is obviously right now big left on Buick, a big no. Here's one change. If they brought out a Grand National Regal.
The Turbo 4 one.
No. With the Turbo 6. Bring back the logo. Bring back the trim. All blacked out, top to bottom.
Yes.
Change that badge. Hey.
That really cool attention. Turbo 6 badge.
Oh, yes. Absolutely iconic. It's heartbreaking that they haven't brought it back yet. That would immediately get my attention.
Like, they've got the Regal GS.
Regal GS, which is sportier. It's sportier.
Mm-hmm.
Grand National, though.
Grand National.
Now you have my attention.
Is it weird that to get the attention of a newer, younger demographic, they have to go retro?
So weird.
I mean, there's a lot of appeal to that in general
or
right
not
now.
they have to. We think they need to
Yeah,
go
I mean,
retro.
you know,
Let me rephrase.
there's a lot of appeal to nostalgia and retro, and only 90s kids will know, and you know, like it's, I mean, especially
That's a good
among our
point.
demographic, we're all looking backwards.
That's very true. And well, the other thing is, in the case of the Grand National, which back in the day was a specialized trim of the Buick Regal at the time, we've already talked about how that badge, I think, is so unbelievably iconic. You see that, you don't think Buick, you only think Grand National.
Yeah.
And if they brought that back, just that teaser, all black screen, they just like slowly rotate the little logo, and then just like a little Buick splash. If they just did a teaser like that, people would be so hyped on Buick immediately.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they sell that retro. So
It's a left for now, but
Yeah.
again,
left for
conditional.
now, there are options.
Buick,
You can catch
bring
us.
back the Grand National.
Do it right now.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much all we need to cover for General Motors.
Yeah, because we're framing this whole episode, and they're making moves. They're trying to do stuff. We're looking at other stuff. GM, like the GMC trucks. I mean,
they're there.
They're not making a lot of moves.
No.
There's not
They're-
a lot to talk about.
Despite all that, despite the fact that they sold all their European brands, GM is still third in global sales behind just Toyota and Volkswagen.
True.
Huge company, so they got to be doing something right at some point. But when you finish, you talk about GM, you talk about the opposite side. There's always those name your brand things: Miller or Bud, Marlboro or Camo if you're still a smoker.
That's such a crazy reference.
It is a crazy reference. I don't know why it came to me, but you got this name your brand thing. It's either going to be GM or it's going to be Ford. So I think.
Which will cause fistfights in Australia and
God.
certain parts of the United States.
Yes.
Oh God,
Yeah.
absolutely. So yeah, let's hop into Ford for a little bit. What's Ford up to?
I can field that first. Ford is massively going for broke. They are aiming everything they have at our demographic, and they're doing it as quickly as possible. So there's been a lot of turnover in the executive ranks at Ford, which we've mentioned before. And they're aiming for a 75% new lineup by 2020. They're reintroducing the Bronco. They're bringing out ST. That's fast. They're I forget what the actual ST stands for.
Sport Tune, maybe?
I can't quite remember. Doesn't
If you're
matter.
listening, please comment. Let us know what ST means.
Yeah, definitely. But
Again, we are not professionals.
they're making ST versions of their hottest selling SUVs. They are trying to bring out a hybrid version of all of their best selling cars. And they're redesigning a little bit the Mustang, and they're reintroducing that along with something that they call a Mustang-inspired SUV that scares the crap out of me.
Is that going to be like the Mitsubishi Eclipse-inspired SUV?
That breaks my heart. It's just, it's so sad.
I'm interested to see what that is, but I'm also kind of nervous about what that is.
Yeah. But anyways,
Yeah, anywho.
Ford is moving everything in one direction, and they want us to buy their cars. If we won't buy them now, buy them in 2020 for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And to kind of add on that, this it seems like maybe they're not at the forefront of it, but Ford CEO Mark Fields seems to be the one that is at least furthest along among the U.S. Big Three in accepting this change, this new wave of transportation that's coming along. They're teaming with Amazon to make Alexa accessible through their sync program in the car.
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you can, Alexa, order me Starbucks at the store on this as you're driving up to the.
No.
They're
Now I can't buy one ever.
they're
To pull the sync system right out of the dashboard.
What is wrong with that? I mean it's what we do. We're in with technology in this
Yeah.
demographic.
You can't escape it.
You can't. By 2021, Mr. Fields wants to introduce a fully driverless vehicle, but focused on ride sharing and delivery. So not just
Not like private ownership.
not like private ownership, but for more companies. So like Uber could buy them or Lyft or whoever.
Yeah, Uber could buy them and kill a bunch of pedestrians.
There you go.
Too much?
That's whole other podcast there, but considering that on the same day the Uber car killed one person, 16 other people were killed by cars with drivers in them. So far the autonomous cars have us 16-1. So people made a big deal out of it, but I think it's not a concern to me personally.
All right.
And like you mentioned, there's the new wave of hybrids and fully electrics coming too. So it
Yeah.
seems like they are they're the ones who are really kind of pushing that needle when it comes to the U.S. market.
Yeah, I mean that's something
Or the U.S. Manufacturers.
Yeah, they've been doing it for a while too. They've had hybrid versions of a lot of things for a long time. They've got the C-Max plug-in hybrid fully electric option coming soon, if not already out.
I think I did see one yesterday, the C-Max Energy.
Yep, and they had the Fusion Energy, which had an interesting Atkinson cycle energy engine with the hybrid system, batteries and electric motors and everything as well. But it had a really weird Atkinson cycle, super efficient engine in the front of that as well, and pushing that kind of stuff.
And let's not forget, it's not necessarily news anymore. It's old news. But let's not forget about that EcoBoost engine that they made. It's a damn good engine.
That is true.
And they've used it across a lot of different platforms in their company. The GT race car has an EcoBoost in it.
And all their trucks.
Yeah. So I always have kind of said, like since the bailout happened, Ford has done by far the best.
But they also needed the bailout the least.
They did. I was just going to say that they took a almost nearly $6 billion loan, $5.9 billion from the Department of Energy, but the stipulation was they were going to invest that in the alternative energy production. And it seems like it's 10 plus years down the road here, but it seems like they're going to come through with at least some of that.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, definitely.
Here's something to remember about Ford. This is the kind of way I think about them. You just mentioned 10 years ago, and that's by the time after Ford got that bailout, they started making nothing but hits. The Fiesta, the Focus, which turned to the Focus ST, which turned to the Focus RS. The trucks, the F-150. I don't necessarily have a stake in the truck wars, but that is a very nice truck for what it is at all across the range.
It's like the top selling truck for how many hundreds of years in a row?
Yeah, it's fleet vehicle sales. I mean, they're everywhere in the whole world.
I mean, oddball, but you don't really think about it. The Sprinter came from Dodge,
right,
and Mercedes at the time, and that kind of met with moderate applause.
Mm-hmm.
But what really pushed this kind of new Euro style of white panel van is the Transit.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Transit Connect. People, I mean, I know people, Asher, I'm looking at you, who bought them as family cars.
Right.
When it's like, hey, I bought a Transit van, and it's kind of everything from a minivan to a workplace hauler. It's filled a lot of different roles.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big hit that not a lot of people talk about, I don't think.
The only thing that worries me with this much turnover at Ford, can they do it all again? They've proven that they can do it. They did it once already.
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago, Ford revamped their whole line, and they hit way more than they missed. My concern would be them doing it again in what is objectively a short amount of time. It's only been 10 years, and they basically ran all of those models into the ground. Can they come back with a completely new line, do the whole thing again? They're almost like, if we're going back to the dating app, they're almost like the X.
Mm-hmm.
That shows up back on the feed somehow, and you're like, oh man, should I do it? Which way do I swipe?
Which way do you swipe?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you do.
Right.
Yes.
I do it.
Yeah, you do
it.
Yeah, I'm a swipe right too.
Mm-hmm.
For various reasons, I would not be at all unhappy purchasing most of Ford's lineup, even with some of these hits that are beginning to kind of be 10 years old. They're not the most up to date, but they're still things that I would prefer over a lot of other things in the market right now. And I think it says something for how good they were, that they're still relevant. And yeah, I'm hoping that, especially after 2020, after we get that refresh, we're going to see another round of these that last another. Do it for 5 years, Ford. Don't go 10 years.
Yes,
but that
please.
lasts, many, many years as very successful cars. Because I really like the Focus ST.
Oh yeah,
a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been telling you guys that for a long time. Like, as far as that hot hatch, when we go to a Ford booth at an auto show, what's the first car I run to? I go sit in the ST or the RS Focus.
You have to.
That's the first one I run to. I would still take it. Sorry, Dad. I grew up in a General Motors household through and through. I am swiping right multiple times on Ford. I just love what they've been doing these past few years, and it seems like they have a cohesive, linear plan to stay relevant going forward.
Yeah.
Plus, bringing back the Bronco.
And the Bronco.
Bronco.
I am so excited.
This
Do you think
is
they'll use OJ in their commercials?
Oh my god.
Oh no.
I was not going to make any
Oh,
OJ
no.
jokes very intentionally.
I think that'd be kind of a funny commercial.
Oh,
OJ in a new white Bronco. Anybody? No?
No, not
Ah, come on.
that. But here's the thing.
I would
This
swipe
is,
left on that.
yeah. But here's evidence. So, what we were talking about with Buick, if they brought back the Grand National name, Ford brought back the Bronco name. People have been begging for it. The hype has been real for 15 years. Whenever it was they released that concept way back in the day.
Yep.
And it's here now. People are still stoked.
Oh, also, not to get totally sidetracked, because it's related, because it's on the same platform,
Yeah.
Ranger.
Oh my gosh.
They're bringing
of
back the
course.
Ranger, and that was
Oh, yeah,
something
how do we forget that?
and
We're bringing
was,
back the
and that-
Ranger.
yeah, and that was something that went away to great wailing and gnashing of teeth.
Mm-hmm.
That and people will still buy those if they are in even moderately good condition for way more than
totally.
a small pickup truck that old is worth, because they have such a devoted following. And
Good call.
and they're bringing that back. So I mean, I think they've got a good combination of forward-looking, looking towards all this alternative energy kind of stuff, but also embracing the fact that retro stuff is what draws people in a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got a very solid, middle ground of really good consumer cars.
We're just
Yeah.
turning into a Ford ad at this point. We
Yeah.
better move. Okay,
Okay, moving on.
We gotta
moving
move on. We gotta
Yeah,
move on.
so but yeah,
Ford did not pay anything for this podcast.
No.
they should, but they didn't.
That's right, Ford. You can get in touch with us at Check Engine Pod
Yeah,
on
yeah.
Twitter.
Inbox at checkenginepodcast.com.
Yep.
If you want to discuss terms.
So here's where the conversation gets difficult. If we get away from Ford and we go into perhaps a car manufacturer that most of you may have forgotten existed, FCA. That's the Fiat Chrysler Alliance. So they make such cars as
I've got the,
The
list.
Chrysler?
I've got the list right here. I've got
Mostly the
Thank
Fiat,
you. I was starting
it's
to seriously
mostly
flounder.
the Fiat Alliance.
the list. So here's what we've got in the Fiat Chrysler Alliance. We've got Alfa Romeo, Chrysler, Dodge, Fiat, Maserati, Jeep, and Ram. And it should be noted that as of today, those last two I mentioned, Jeep and Ram, are the only two that are actually like operating in the black
right. Yeah.
In this country.
in this country,
Yeah.
which is what we're talking about.
Yep.
Merc.
Nope.
Here's my thing with Chrysler in general, and I think that's just where we're going to start because they only have like two cars.
3.
Oh, sorry.
Well, two
no.
cars and a minivan.
Two cars and a minivan. The 200, the 300, and the minivan.
The Pacifica.
Thank you.
You're
yes,
welcome.
Pacifica.
On point, Tristan.
I don't get what Chrysler's for at this point. I think
The brand. They were the original.
is that
It was before
really what
Dodge. It
is?
was before Chrysler.
just the nameplate.
Like Cadillac is for GM. Like it's
Okay.
just it's the
I just feel like there's nothing about the Chrysler 200 that appealed to either of us, Tristan, when we were shopping for cars. And the lease deals on the top tier, so that's, the limited with the V6 engine, the all-wheel drive, leather this, leather that, sunroof,
Check
moonroof, heated,
every
cooled.
box.
The lease deals were like
Easily
250 or
sub
something.
300.
Yeah, sub 300. And neither of us even went to the dealership because there was just nothing there.
I went to the dealership,
Oh, sorry.
but not for the Chrysler.
That's right.
I went for the pickup truck.
That's right. Okay. My bad.
that's just not just you guys that it doesn't appeal to because they're actually discontinuing the Chrysler 200, so it doesn't really appeal to anyone.
So that's Axe.
It's kind of weird. They're cutting out half of their car production by cutting out one car.
Oof. Brutal.
That's weird, right? Like all they have left is the 300 and the Pacifica minivan in that brand.
So,
Or do they have do they have the small SUV too, or is it just a minivan now?
oh gosh, maybe
The
we
small
better look this
crossover
up
SUV.
here.
I think they don't, but we can touch base on that.
We'll
a little
circle
bit.
back. We'll circle back. If anyone's listening live, let us know.
Yeah. If you're listening to this while we're recording right now. But
So my neighbor below me, if you can hear us.
Here's the thing. Can you remind me if the 300 is essentially a badge engineered Charger, right? It shares a lot of internal components with the Charger and
You said the 300?
yeah, the 300.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so I have our answer. For 2018, my phone of choice is an iPhone 8 Plus. The entire Chrysler lineup fits on one
One's-
iPhone 8 Plus screen. It is the 2018 Chrysler 300 and the Pacifica. There is nothing else.
Okay.
Yeesh.
There you go. No small SUV. Question answered. Don't bother if you're listening
man.
live. We got it.
Oh,
Thanks.
man. What are they doing over there?
What are you doing, guys?
Exactly.
What do you do? It's... it doesn't appear like they have a plan. It like the Fiat group is over there in Italy just kind of doing their own thing, and it's almost like they just bought Chrysler and all that it entails just for an asset, just like on paper.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. I mean, they're putting a little bit of attention in on Jeep because Jeep is such a cult hit and it's never really going to go away. They know that it's going to make money.
Yeah, it's here and abroad. I mean, they
Yeah,
sell
Jeeps are
like,
everywhere.
They sell like crazy in Europe and everywhere else too.
Yeah,
so.
they're everywhere.
Plus, that's a hot segment. I mean, if you make Jeep, they have name recognition, they have history, they have story, and they're in the key demo. I mean, that's
A lot of
Jeep's a home
people-
run.
yeah.
That's maybe the only thing that. Well, they have Ram too, which is selling well, but
Yeah.
maybe the only thing that FCA is going for right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah, they're pouring tons of money into Jeep. They're really doing a lot of work in Ram as well because they are surprisingly popular. Looking through, various applications of a pickup truck, they're not fleet vehicles very
Right.
often, but a lot of private people buy Rams because they are, like Nick, you were talking about, hey, I need to tow my cart, I need to tow things occasionally, but they have things like independent suspension in the back, air suspension, the Ram toolboxes. They've got all these cool features that make them easy to live with as a daily driver,
Yep.
but they can still move stuff around. Whereas a lot of the other cars, I mean, the Colorado does a good job. A lot of other trucks, though, focus on, strict workability. Livability is a second consideration. And FCA with the Dodge brand is making distinct concessions to how good of a pickup truck it is to make it a better daily driver so that people will buy one because they know most of the time people are not pushing these pickup trucks to their absolute limit. They're just using them for 50 or 60% of what they can do.
Just a quick note: Ram is its own brand now. It's not a Dodge Ram anymore.
Yep, right.
It's just
sorry,
a Ram.
Yeah,
Yep.
It's just a Ram. But yeah, and it's weird that Jeep is doing so well and Ram, as Tristan just listed off all the cool things that Ram is doing a little bit differently than an F-150 or a Silverado. But FCA CEO Sergio Marchionne said he is willing to sell both Ram and Jeep,
He kind of seems...
which is the only two brands that is making his company money in the States
Well,
right now.
I read that, and then I read that he was also trying to sell Chrysler to Geely. They're a Chinese auto company, Geely. And then I heard that he was trying to sell Chrysler. Remember, late last year he was talking up how Renault Nissan had
Were
interest in
interested,
Chrysler, and then Renault Nissan was like, no thanks. So that's all really weird. It almost seems like he'd be willing to part out every single piece of FCA and maybe just keep like Fiat and Ferrari. But the two issues that I have, so they also do Alfa Romeo, and they just released a new Alfa Romeo SUV. I've actually seen some on the roads, which is a little bit surprising. I'm wondering if that's lease deal stuff, whatever. But they didn't badge engineer that for Chrysler. Why not?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's too steep.
You
I think when you're looking at something that's a better portion of a Ferrari engine inside, and I think badge engineering would require it would be just the unibody. I think
Right.
I think the suspension pieces, the engine, the transmission, the inside appointments are they're just too upscale for Chrysler.
But even so, what if it was just the unibody? They have clearly they have working heavier duty car stuff because they make the van. And then they also have a range of engines that would kind of fit in that. They have a V6 that would be powerful enough to move that body with, enough power to make it viable at market. And maybe it is just an issue of doing all that work to re-engineer the car almost completely.
Yeah,
that doesn't make it worth it.
It would almost not qualify as badge engineering at that point. I think it would be rolling out a whole new Chrysler SUV with some shared manufacturing for some of the sheet metal. But
Yeah.
doesn't save you very much.
That's true. It just seems like they're not even attempting to try. They're not even getting into that threshold.
And I think it all boils down to what we saw when Mercedes took over. Before they sold them to FCA, or before they sold them to Fiat and became FCA, I don't think the Europeans know what to do with Chrysler. They've had more or less success with various portions of FCA, current FCA, Jeep, Dodge, Ram, things like that. We saw some interesting things coming from Mercedes in the Dodge department. They were the first ones to really roll out the new Charger, the Magnum. Those are all hand-me-down E-Class Mercedes parts.
Even the 300.
Yeah, 300, same platform. And they did some interesting things. But yeah, all they really did was roll out the 300 for Chrysler. They didn't really push Chrysler very much, with the odd exception of things like the Crossfire and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think the Europeans have trouble with Chrysler, and having Chrysler be the flagship brand of that family, I think that causes trouble. They don't know what to do with the brand group as a whole.
That's kind of it is kind of unfortunate because like we keep saying, you have a dead weight in Chrysler. They're not even attempting at this point to do anything, or so it seems. And then you have the extremely buoyant brands of Jeep and Ram. I feel like they're kind of in a bit of a tough place. The Fiat's foray into American markets hasn't really led anywhere. Yeah, they sold a bunch of those little 500s because they're adorable, and they're super fun to drive. I don't know if you guys have ever driven one.
I drove one all the way from Virginia to Wisconsin.
Have you driven the Abarth?
No.
Oh my god, I drove one of those. Oof. Oh, it's the happiest car in the universe.
It looks angry, but it is happy.
And you look like such an idiot driving the thing because you're just in this tiny
crammed
little...
in it. Imagine that, but not an Abarth. You don't even have the Abarth cool factor. You're just a guy like me crammed into a Fiat 500. Ooh.
And when he says "guy like me," he is a human with the build of a whiskey barrel.
Yes.
True.
Yes.
So, yeah,
But,
imagine that crammed into a Fiat.
I would say so. I think as a group, based on law of averages, FCA as a whole, I would swipe right.
Ooh, wow.
Because
that's surprising.
for me, the only real clinker in the bunch is Chrysler. I think Chrysler is something I'm not at all interested in, but I have things, including the newest Charger, especially in the Rally package with all-wheel drive, that is of interest to me. Jeep, as it says in my bio and on my website, on my portion of the website, I support Jeep, Subaru, and Volkswagen Group in equal measure, so you'll always get me to buy a Jeep. And if I had to buy a truck, it would be a toss-up between a 1500 Ram and a Colorado, depending on how big a truck I needed. So on average, I think I would swipe right, but in order, it would be left on Chrysler, right on Jeep, right on Ram, probably right on Dodge for one car. But I'm going to say on average, I would be swiping right on FCA with some concern about the length of the relationship. I think depending on what the Europeans decide to do with all these brands, there's an unsteady future. But with what they currently have available for me to buy, in general, I would swipe right.
Oh man. Oh no. No. Because here's the reason. FCA, Fiat in America, is a stinker. Chrysler in America is bullshit. Then you just have the Alliance left. Those companies, Jeep and Ram, could be sold, apparently, to whoever happens to want them at the right price at any time. And that wouldn't necessarily change either of those brands. But
if the buyer was smart.
Hopefully they wouldn't change them. But FCA as a whole, I would have to say no way, because it doesn't seem like they have... Maybe this is saying too much. It just doesn't seem like they have leadership to direct that company to a place where it's going to survive in its current or in any, possible or likely future configuration as FCA.
Yeah, no, and I think that's entirely fair. I think, FCA is the only one that I personally did average swipe right or left, because all the GM ones we swipe right or left individually. So I guess, break it down. If we don't say on average, can we look at it as just FCA? No, because there are enough brands that we have to swipe right individually. So,
Sure.
Fiat, no. Swipe left. Chrysler left. Dodge, think about it for a while. Ram and Jeep, swipe right. I think if you got to break it down that way.
we didn't really even touch on Dodge that much in this discussion.
No.
But I mean, they discontinued the Viper. They tried to bring the Dart back, and that no one bought the reissued Dart.
Well, secretly, it was just a Chrysler 200.
It was just a 200
that
with
was
a
its
different badge.
problem.
Well, and before that, isn't that based on something totally weird like the Fiat Punto?
Something like that.
It's one of the more uninspiring Fiats underneath as well.
So we touched a little bit more on Dodge there. We did somewhat give them their due. I'm not even that big of a Jeep guy. I mean, a Wrangler with the doors off and the rag top is kind of cool to go banging around in every now and again, but I'm swiping left. Swiping left. You're on your own on this one.
You're looking at me like I care.
I thought I honestly expected some sort of impassioned defense there.
No.
I mean, maybe you know what? Maybe I could do like a little one night, little hookup,
little
action
fling
with FCA.
Little fling.
But,
A fling with a demon.
Yeah, fling with a demon.
Fling with a demon.
Shout out the Dodge.
Hashtag fling with a demon.
So for Andrew, it sounds like FCA has a future in rental cars.
Well, if they're lucky.
But even like a serious note, as an investor, or I'm not if I a big investor, head of an investment firm, or just infinitely wealthy, looking at a place to put my money, what's the plan? Like, there's so much uncertainty there. Mm-hmm. Why would I want to pour any sort of cash into it? I don't know. I'm steering clear of the FCA at this point.
Yeah, but just from a buying standpoint, and we did pitch this, kind of start this as
that's true.
How are they getting to our demographic? And I think when you've got Jeeps, you've got a relatively interesting family car like the Charger, and you've got trucks for professionals and people who need to tow light things. I think that changes it in a different light. No, do I have serious concerns about the financial future of the company? Oh, absolutely. But I think, would I buy some of their cars? Yes.
Maybe it's because we kind of approach it from the news side of things. We're in this world a lot. We read a lot of car news. But for me, it was hard to see that we started from the point of view of targeting our demographic, because there's so much noise with FCA. It's almost impossible to tell that actually they are trying to sell these cars to us.
Yeah. Yep.
You don't ever think of that with Chrysler. You don't ever think of that with Fiat. You don't ever think of that with anyone but Jeep and a little bit of Dodge too.
Yeah.
A little bit of Dodge.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, do we got time for thank yous? Or we got to wrap up?
Yeah, we can make it quick.
Make it quick. Andrew?
I got a great one.
Who are you thanking?
Today I'm thanking Sugar Scrub Lip Peels. I got one today. Buttery soft, bro. I'm telling you.
Oh my
Say that
goodness.
again?
My lips are very soft right now because I got a sugar lip peel.
Huh.
Just at home, did it myself. A little face mask action. Get my skin all nice. Toned
Okay.
it after.
Okay.
So you can come sit in a bedroom and record a podcast?
Hey, don't hate I'm the only one who's married. I'm just saying.
Clearly.
Tristan?
I've been thinking about this for a while.
Uh-oh.
And I really think I have to thank Soft Soap hand soap. Because it doesn't smell like something terrible. It doesn't smell like something good. It smells like soap, and that's how soap should smell.
That's very fair.
There you go.
This is
There
a
you
cause
go.
I can get behind. What about you, Nick?
Oh, who am I thanking today? I don't know. I don't got anybody to thank.
Thank the fans, man.
Well, yeah, obviously. I don't have anybody.
Nick does it
anything
on
else
his
to
own.
Thank. But obviously, we thank the fans. We thank everybody who tunes in, everybody who listens. Even if we suck, you guys are always awesome. But we want to hear from you. So be sure to find us on the socials. Check Engine Podcast on Facebook. Check Engine Pod on both Twitter and Instagram. Comment. What do you think about the big three in the U.S.? Swiping right, swiping left. You can also reach out to us by direct email, our new direct email, either inbox at checkenginepodcast.com or either one of our names, Nick, Tristan, or Andrew, at checkenginepodcast.com. Find us on Google Play, Spotify, Overcast, Pocket Cast, iTunes, and on Anchor.fm. And our new website, checkenginepodcast.com. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
See ya.